Hallelujah. Welcome back to the exciting book of Genesis. And we're continuing on our journey through Genesis. And today we're in chapter 43. Now, everyone has heard of the second coming, right? Today we're going to talk about the second going. So many people, think about, the second coming and how we're called to how the Messiah is to come back. But like when the Messiah came the first time, there were some that came to him that wasn't allowed to come to him. That he didn't allow to come to him. During that time. They were allowed later, such as the Gentiles, where he said, I come only for the lost sheep of Israel. So, there were some that was coming to him that wasn't allowed at the time. They was not allowed. There was others that came and then decided not to follow him. There were others that didn't even come. And about many of those that did come, he selected only some of them. He didn't share everything with everyone. Everyone couldn't get his personal space and get that personal treatment like those of his disciples. Can anybody see where I'm going with this? Yeah. And the point that I'm trying to make is, when he came the first time, everyone couldn't go, and when he comes the second time, everyone not going to be able to go. There are certain criteria that was involved the first time that allowed them to come into his personal space. And there's going to be certain criteria that's going to be in place that will allow one to go to him the second time as well. And that's what we're going to see. That's what we see in this story, in Genesis 43. We see how we have to go unto him. We see how, spiritually speaking, we are to go unto him. See, because, there were some that went unto him and they were trying to trip him up. There was those who went unto him and they just wanted to be healed. But those who really abided with him, those who really, were with him, there was a criteria that had to be in place for them to get into his personal space. And that was then when he came as a servant. When he returned, he's coming as a king. Mm-hmm. How many of you know that, you can't just go into the presence of a king whenever you choose? It doesn't work like that. We see in the book of Esther, even his wife couldn't just come into his presence without taking a chance. So within that we see, and just think about our rulers today. How many of you think you can just walk up to, who's your president these days? Walk up to Trump and just, think you can just have a conversation with him. I need to sit down with you for a minute. Or even Obama, the last ruler. How many think you can just, go and get a conference with him? It doesn't work that way. We're talking about, the King of Kings, the one that's going to come back and be established as the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. Think you can just walk into his presence and have a sit down with him? Nah. It wasn't like that the first time, and it's not going to be like that the second time. There are some things that has to be in place, some criteria that has to be met in order for you to go before the king. Until you go before him in judgment. And then, I don't know what's going to happen there. So, that being said, this is what we're looking at, as we look through these passages. Let me have my first reader read Genesis 43, 1 through 7, please.
And the famine was was sore in the land. And it came to pass, when they had eaten of the corn which they had brought out of Mitzrayim, their father said unto them, Go again, buy us a little food. And Yehudah spake unto him, saying, The man did solemnly protest unto us, saying, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. If thou wilt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee food. But if thou wilt not send him, we will not go down. For the man said unto us, Ye shall not see my face, except your brother be with you. And Israel said, Wherefore dealt ye so ill with me, as to tell the man whether ye had yet a brother? And they said, The man asked us straitly of our state and of our kindred, saying, Is your father yet alive? Have ye another brother? And we told him according to the tenor of these words. Could we certainly know that he would say, Bring your brother down? And they said, Thy servants are 12 brethren, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is not.
Hallelujah. Well, when we look at 1 through 7, we see, first of all, the setting. You know, there was a famine in the land, a famine that was sore in the land, and we already spoke about the symbolism with that and how it speaks to a famine being in the land in the end times, but a famine not for food, but for the word of Elohim. You know, even the understanding of the word of Elohim or the doing of the word of Elohim is definitely a famine in the land for doing the word of Elohim. You know, now here it is. The first time that they went, they brought back some, you know, some corn, you know, for them to eat. They brought back some substance for them to eat, and you know, so all that had been used up, you know, and so their father was telling them, you know, hey, go again and buy us a little food. But Yehudah said, nah, can't do it. You know, for the guy told us, we can't even see his face. We can't see his face again except our brother be with us. You know, and he tells them, you know, straight out in verse 5, but if thou will not send them, we will not go down. For the man said unto us, ye shall not see my face except your brother be with you. So, what do we learn from this? You know, well, first of all, I want to point out one thing. You know, in verse 7 it says, and they said, the man asked us straightly of our state and of our kindred, saying, Is your father yet alive? Have ye another brother? And we told him according to the tenor of these words. Now, I don't know. Maybe that conversation went on, you know, and it just wasn't recorded. But in Genesis 42:13, we have an account of what was said. And it says, and they said, thy servants are 12 brethren, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And behold, the youngest is this day with our father, and one is not. And it was, you know, in the original account, it doesn't say anything about him asking them their state and of their kindred. You know, now I'm not saying they lying. I'm just saying maybe it's not recorded, but you know, this is what's here. You know, so I just throw that out there. Okay, now that being said, you know, what we learn here is that before we can go the second time, before we can go see Yosef, who is a type of the Messiah, before we can go to him the second time, we need to have somebody with us. Amen? We need to have our brother with us. We cannot go without our younger brother. You know, so this is what we're learning thus far. We need our younger brother. We're gonna identify him momentarily. Let me have my next reader read verses 8 through 15.
And Judah said unto Israel his father, Send a lad with me, and we will arise and go, that we may live and not die, both we and thou, and also our little ones. I will be surety for him. Of my hand shalt thou require him. If I bring him him not unto thee, and send him before thee, and then let me bear the blame forever. For except we had lineared, surely now we had returned this second time. And their father Israel said unto them, If it must be so now, do this. Take of the best fruits in the land in your vessels, and carry down the man a present, a little balm and a little honey, spices and myrrh nuts and almonds. And take double money in your hand, and the money that was brought again into the mouth of your sacks. Carry it again in your hand, peradventure it was an oversight. Take also your brother, and arise, go again unto the man. And Elohim Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your other brother and Benjamin. If I be bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. And the men took that present, and they took double money in their hand. And Benjamin and rose up and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph.
Hallelujah. Thank you. Okay, so, we have Yahudah speaking to his father Israel, and he's saying, send the lad with me. He's telling him, I will be surety for him. And I found this interesting for, first, the firstborn was Reuben. We talked about that last week. They didn't trust him. After he got Joseph, after what happened to Joseph, Reuben was the firstborn. He was in charge, and that didn't fare too well. So Father Israel was like, no, don't even think about it. I am not sending him with you. And then Simeon, who was the secondborn, he was taken captive. So he couldn't vouch. But the third in line is actually Levi. He was actually the third born. He was the third in line, but we don't see Levi stepping up, but Yahudah, which is actually the fourth born. And I thought that was interesting. I have no idea what it means. But, there's some things we can contemplate, but, nothing can nail down. But, here it is, we see Yahudah, he's saying, I will be surety unto him. And again, this teaches us, when it's time to go to Yahshua, when he's ruling and reigning, and it's time for, we have an opportunity to go back to him, we're going to have to take our brother, but, he's only going to let him go with Yahudah. He didn't let him go with Reuben, and the only one he's letting him go with is Yahudah. Bless you. And he's not going to let him go without us taking a present for the man. And we have to take a present of the best fruits in the land in our vessels. Now these are our vessels. We're living in our vessels. Amen. And so. If we're taking the best fruits, the best fruits is the fruits of the Spirit. There's no fruits that's better than that, right? Love, joy, peace, long suffering, etc., etc. So here it is. We see in a spiritual picture that's forming up. If we're going to go to Yahshua, if we're going to return to Yahshua, the second time, first of all, we have to be Yahudah. Yahudah has to go with us. We have to have him. Yahudah means a praiser of Yah. So if you're not a praiser of Yah, guess what? Father Israel is not going to send his son Benjamin with you. But you need him to go before the Messiah. You need him to go before Joseph, who's in the place of Pharaoh. Pharaoh means the great house, so who's in the place of the house of Elohim. So we need to have Yahudah. We need Yahudah. He has to be the one to take him. So anybody got a praiser within them? Yeah. We all got a little Yahudah, right? Anybody got some praiser within them? You know, you have to have a praiser within you. You know, you have to have that praiser of Yah. You know, that true praiser of Yah. That's the only one that's going to be able to go before him, because that's the only one that Father Israel is going to allow Benjamin to go with. Amen? All right, so, and that praiser has to be surety for him. I hope you're getting that. All right, so he said, his response was, if it must be so now, do this, take the best of the land's, best of the fruits in the land, the best fruits in the land in your vessel. So we have to have that fruit. We have to have that fruit when we go. You know, it says take double money in your hand, you know, which word money is kasef, which speaks to silver, which speaks to redemption. And it says, take also your brother. And so we see here that the men took that present, you know, they took the fruit with them, and they took double the money, and they took Benjamin. Benjamin is, you know, is the brother that's being spoken of, you know, the son of the right hand, the one who's born in, you know, his birth is bittersweet. It's bittersweet, you know. We'll talk about him a little bit more later. Let me have my next reader read verses 16 through 22.
And when Joseph saw Benjamin with him, he said to the ruler of his house, bring these men home and slay, and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. And the men did as Joseph bade, and the men brought the men into Joseph's house. And the men were afraid because they were brought into Joseph's house. And they said, because of the money that we returned in our sacks at the first time as we brought it in, that he may seek occasion against us and fall upon us and take us for bondsmen and our asses. And they came near to the steward of Joseph's house, and they communed with him at the door of the house, and said, "O sir, we came indeed down at the first time to buy food. And it came to pass, when we came to the end, that we opened our sacks, and behold, every man's money was in the mouth of his sack. Our money is full weight, and we have bought it again in our hands. And other monies have we bought down in our hands to buy food. We cannot tell who put our money in our sacks."
Okay, well, one of the things I want us to also see is that every time they came and put the money in the sacks, the money gave them money for the food, you know, the money ended up back in their sacks. You know, so what is that telling us? That's telling us your money is not no good with Yahshua. You know, your money's no good. You know, you can't even spend your money with him. You know, but what you do need to have, what you do need to have when you come before him is what Israel sent with you. You know, and that is the best of the fruit and Benjamin. You know, verse 40, Genesis 43:23 says, and he said, peace be to you, fear not. Your Elohim and the Elohim of your father have given you treasure in your sacks. I had your money. And he brought Simeon out unto him, unto them. You know, so what scripture is teaching us is that we can't get Simeon back. Simeon, his name means hearing. You know, so we can't get to where we're hearing of Elohim like they used to hear of Elohim again until we bring Ben-Oni or Benjamin. You know, it's not until the Father releases him unto the praiser of Yah that we'll be able to go before the ruler of the house of Elohim and get Simeon back. You know, now Simeon represents the ecclesia because Simon Peter, whose name is actually Simeon in Hebrew and presented as Simon in the Greek, or not the Greek but the Aramaic in the New Testament, you know, both mean hearing. And we know that Simon is the one that the Messiah established his ecclesia upon. You know, and Simon or the head of the ecclesia is actually who's missing right now. You see, there's a parallel with our time and this time. The ecclesia is with Yahshua, bound with Yahshua. Because there is no ecclesia. A lot of people talk about the church today, which is translated from the word ecclesia, but the ecclesia is non-existent today. It truly is. For the ecclesia was the ruling class, for the kingdom of Elohim. Whenever someone had a dispute, they went to this ruling class, and they determined what was right or wrong, centered around their communications with the Most High and what He had taught them. And that's, we have an illusion of such, with some of the quote unquote denominations, but none of them adhere to the criteria that the original ecclesia had to adhere to. So what Scripture is teaching us is that we can't get the ecclesia back until we bring Ben-Oni or Benjamin with us. And the only one the Father is going to release Benjamin to is with Yahudah. So we need some real Yahudim to stand up and come together as one, in order to get Simeon back. Because until that happens, Father Israel is not going to release Benjamin. And there's a lot of people, they think they praise Yah. We talk about the highest praise, hallelujah. Why is hallelujah the highest praise? For one reason, it has Yah's name in it. It's literally praising Yah. But Hallel is praise, Lu is ye, and then Yah. So praise ye Yah. A lot of people look at that and they say, well, that's the highest praise, to praise Yah. Yes, it is. But why is it the highest praise? It's because Hallel, which speaks to praise, literally means to make a fool out of yourself. Yeah. Not figuratively. It literally means to make yourself look foolish. So when you make yourself look foolish for Yah, that's the highest praise. We talk about the blessings of the Most High. And Yahshua will say stuff like, rejoice, be exceedingly glad when you're persecuted for righteousness' sake. And he speaks of that as being one of the greatest blessings. But here it is, you're being persecuted and you're rejoicing. You're going to look like a fool to the world, are you not? That's the highest praise. You get to praising and worshiping Yah, and you just kind of get into your Yah bubble, as my sister called it, and just lose your mind. You look kind of foolish to some folks. To some folks, not to me, look beautiful to me, but to some folks, you may look foolish, and to yourself, you may even feel foolish. But that's the highest praise. And when you get to that level of praise, there's some things that, it's some things that transpire. When you get to that level, I don't know, anybody ever been to that level of praise? Anybody really ever, blocked out anything and everything, anything and everything, and just praised Yah with everything that was in them, and just let everything go, and just cried out and yelled out unto him, and anybody ever been there?
Yeah.
See, that's the highest praise. That's the highest praise. See, and when you get there, that's when praise becomes a weapon, because that's true praise. That's when the strongholds are pulled down. That's when the yokes are broken. But see, we need those true praisers, those who don't mind looking foolish to Yah, don't mind looking foolish for Yah, I should say. We need them to step on the scene. You know, and they're the ones that have to be surety for Benjamin. You know, there's you know, Benjamin is the son of the right hand. And his mom called him the son of sorrow. You know, because she died shortly after giving birth to him. You know, and so that's some indicators as to who Benjamin is. You know, in order to be fathered from above, you know, you got to go through some stuff. In order for the sons of Elohim to be birthed into this world, you know, it's going to take a whole lot. You know, and mom is, you know, is going to get, you know, catch the brunt of it. You know, but this is the only way that the Father is going to release our brother Benjamin to us. He has to go with the praiser, so if you're not a praiser, then he's not going to go with you. You know, because he's the only one he's going to release him to. And then you have to also take the fruit. So if you're not carrying the fruit within your vessel, nah, he's not gonna let you have him. And then Joseph, which represents the Messiah on the other end, he's not going to accept you. You're not going to be able to come before him. You gotta have Benjamin. You know, and in order to get Benjamin, you got to adhere to the wishes of the Father. And he wants you to take the fruit, you know, his present, you know, with him. And it says, and the man brought the men to Joseph's house and gave them water and washed their feet and gave their behinds provender. And they made ready the present against Joseph. Came at noon, for they heard that they should eat bread there. And Joseph came home, and they brought him the present which was in their hand into the house. They giving them the fruit. They giving them that love, that joy, that peace. They bowed themselves to him, to the earth. And he asked them of their welfare and said, is your father well? And the old man of whom ye spake, is he yet alive? And they answered, thy servant, your father, is in good health. He is yet alive. And they bowed down their heads and made obeisance. Verses 29 through 34. My next reader, please.
And he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin and his mother's son, and said, is this your younger brother of whom he spake unto me? And he said, Elohim be gracious unto thee, my son. And Joseph made haste, for his bowels did yearn upon his brother. And he sought where to weep. And he entered into his chamber and wept there. And he washed his face and went out and refrained himself and said, set on bread. And they set on for him by himself, and for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians which did eat with him by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews, for this is an abomination unto the Egyptians. And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men marveled at one another. And he took and sent messes unto them from before him. But Benjamin's mess was 5 times so much as any of theirs. And they drank, and they were merry with him.
Hallelujah. So we see they made it before him, and they're pleasing in his sight, and you know they're sitting down and having and breaking bread with him. You know, and you know, just spiritually speaking, this reminds me of the marriage supper of the Lamb. You know, but it says that Benjamin's his mess was 5 times so much as any of theirs. You know, so he had special grace. You know, 5 is the number of grace. But we're not going to stop here. We're going to go on to Genesis chapter 44 and see what else happens. Let me have my next reader read Genesis 44, 1 through 9.
And he commanded the steward of his house, saying, fill the men's sacks with food, and as much as they can carry, and put every man's money in his sack's mouth. And put my cup, the silver cup, in the sack's mouth of the youngest, and his corn money. And he did according to the word that Joseph had spoken. As soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away, and they and their asses. And when they were gone out of the city,
and none not yet far off, Joseph said unto his steward, Up, follow after the men, and when thou dost overtake them, say unto them, Wherefore have ye rewarded evil for good? Is not this it in which my Lord drinketh, and whereby indeed he divineth? Ye have done evil in doing so. And he overtook them, and he spake unto them these same words. And they said unto him, Wherefore saith my Lord these words? Elohim forbid that thy servants should do according to this thing. Behold, the money which we found in our sacks' mouths we brought again unto thee out of the land of Canaan. How then should we steal out of thy Lord's house silver or gold? With whomever of thy servants it be found, both let him die, and we also will be my Lord's bondsmen.
Hallelujah. So here it is. They get finished eating, and they leave on up out of the house, and he tells the steward to fill the man's sack with food as much as they can carry, and put every man's money in his sack's mouth. See, money no good with him. So and he says, put my cup, the silver cup, in the sack's mouth of the youngest. He's setting them up, and so they take off, and then he has his men go after him, and he goes and he says, why have you rewarded evil for good? And in the last days, that's exactly what we're going to get for the good that we do. We're going to get evil for the good that we do. But here it is. The master's cup is he wants his cup, and whoever has his cup. He wants his cup, and whoever has his cup. And here we see in verse 9, it says, with whomsoever of thy servants it be found, both let him die, and we also will be my Lord's bondsmen. Whenever the scriptures, point out something like that, it's really telling us something, even though it's about to get switched up. In verse 10, we see he said, now also let it be according unto your words. But he switched it up. He says, he with whom it is found shall be my servant, not that he should die. And ye shall be blameless. So he switched it up a little bit. Like, okay, no, he's gonna be my servant. And verse 11 through 17, it says, then they speedily took down every man his sack to the ground, and opened every man his sack, and he searched and began at the eldest and left at the youngest. And the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. And they rent their clothes and laid it every man his behind, and returned to the city, and Yahudah and his brethren came to Joseph's house. See, I praise him in there. For he was yet there, and they fell before him on the ground, and Joseph said unto them, what deed is this that ye have done? Would not that such a man as I can certainly divine? And Yahudah said, what shall we say unto my Adonai? What shall we speak? Well, how shall we clear ourselves? Elohim hath found out the iniquity of thy servants. Behold, we are my Lord's servants, both we and he also with whom the cup is found. And he said, Elohim forbid that I should do so. But the man in whose hand the cup is found, he shall be my servant. As for you, get you up in peace unto your father. So we see here the numero uno concern concerning Joseph, within the story is Benjamin. He's even telling them, hey, nah, I just want Benjamin. The rest of y'all can go on about y'all business. Can you see that? That's the number one concern. Let's see what happens next. Let me have my next reader read verses 18 through 26.
Then Yehudah came near unto him and said, O my Lord, let thy servant, I pray thee, speak a word in my Adonai's ear, and let not thy anger
burn against thy servant, for thou art even as Pharaoh. My Lord asked his servant, saying, Have ye a father or brother? And we said unto my Lord, We have a father, an old man, and a child of his old age, a little one, and his brother is dead. He alone is left of his mother, and his father loveth him. And thou saidst unto thy servant, Bring him down unto me, that I may set my eyes upon him. And we said unto my Lord, The lad cannot leave his father, for if he should leave his father would die. And thou saidst unto thy servant, Except your youngest brother come down with you, you shall see my father's face, shall see my face no more. And it came to pass, when he came up unto thy servant, my father, we told him the words of my Lord. And our father said, Go again and buy us a little food. And we said, We cannot go down. If our youngest brother be with us, then will we go down. For we may not see the man's face except our youngest brother be with us.
Okay, so here it is. He's running down everything that happened to Joseph, you know, and so we see here the praiser of Yah. He's the spokesperson. He's the one speaking, you know, and he's looking at Joseph even as Pharaoh. Pharaoh means the great house, and it speaks of the house of Elohim, which is the great house of Jerusalem, you know. And so here it is. He's even as Pharaoh. So this is a spiritual picture of the praiser of Yah, you know, going before the house of Elohim, and you know, and he's running down what happened, and he says, you know, this was your stipulation, except our youngest brother be with you, you know, and he's saying, you know, we couldn't see your face, you know, and so this is how we done got into this predicament. And he goes on in verses 27 through 34. Let me have my next reader read verses 27 through 34, please.
And your servant my father said unto us, You know that my wife bare me 2 sons. And the one went out from me, and I said, Surely he is torn in pieces, and I saw him not since. And if ye take this also from me, and mischief befall him, you will bring down my gray hairs and with sorrow to the grave. Now therefore, when I come to your servant my father, and the lad be not with us, seeing that his life is bound up in the lad's life, it shall come to pass, when he seeth that the lad is not with us, that he will die. And your servants will bring down the gray hairs of your servant our father with sorrow to the grave. For your servants became surety for the lad unto my father, saying, If I bring him not unto thee, then I shall bear the blame to my father forever. Now therefore, I pray thee, let my servant abide instead of the lad a bondman to my Lord, and let the lad go up with his brethren. For how shall I go up to my father, and the lad be not with me? Lest peradventure I see the evil that will come on my father.
Hallelujah. You know, so here it is. We see, you know, Yahudah running it down, and he's letting Joseph know. He says, you know, I became surety for the lad unto my father. You know, now, you know, then we see him really giving that present, that good fruit that was within him. You know, showing that greatest love of all. You know, even where a man would lay down his life for his friends. You know, here it is. He's putting his life for the lad's life. You know, he's saying, you know, I pray thee, let thy servant abide instead of the lad, a bondman to my Lord. You know, and let the lad go up with his brother. You know, so hereby scripture is teaching us that once Yahudah has received Benjamin, you know, into his care, he can either go to the house of Joseph, who is as Pharaoh, you know, which spiritually speaks to the house of Elohim. He can't go to the house of Elohim without Benjamin, nor can he go home to his father Israel without Benjamin. You know, so he's in a predicament, isn't he? You know, once he done received Benjamin into his hand, you know, he can neither go to the Pharaoh that represents the house of Elohim, you know, without him, nor can he even go home, you know, back to Israel without him. You know, and so when I think about that, you know, it's like, you know, I was contemplating, and I was like, yeah, okay, I see something, and I see him. He was forming this spiritual picture for me, you know, but I didn't quite understand fully what he was trying to show me, you know. So that's as far as I can go with it, you know, because I don't want to teach you my heart. I just want to teach you what the Ruach gives me to give you, you know. And so I was actually praying for clarity on this one, and this is all he gave me at this time. So this is all I can give you at this time. So I pray it was a blessing unto you. We'll pick it up from chapter 45 next week. If there's any questions, please see me personally, you know, or call me or email me, you know, and we'll take, we have any announcements, sis?
Just one announcement. So, Bet Yesharon women,